All right, let's do a deep dive on the Make Noise Soundhack Mimeophon. This is a stereo effects module, delay / reverb kind of thing. And this is a favorite module of mine. I especially like that it has stereo outputs so that I can get a stereo image in my mix. So let me start a simple sequence here. All you're hearing right now is the dry synth signal that's being fed into here. It's the mix knob is turned all the way to the left, which means you're not getting any of the effect yet. So if I turn it all the way to the right, now that's just the effect signal. And if I put it about halfway, we get a 50-50 mix. So let's go through the different knobs here and I'll show you what they do. The repeats knob is how many times it's going to repeat the signal that's being fed into here. So all the way to the left, I think it is just one repeat. And all the way to the right is infinite, so it'll just keep repeating everything. Over here is the halo knob, and this kind of smears the echoes to turn it into like a reverb effect. And there's a whole range of in between here depending on how smeared you want it to get. The color knob is pretty cool. Right now I've got it at 3 o'clock roughly, which is basically keeping the repeat sounds sounding about the same as the dry signal that's going in. If I turn it all the way to the right, it gives the repeats a high pass filter, so it's taking out the low frequencies. And if I go all the way to the left, now it's chopping off the high frequencies and kind of muffling it, which if I blend with the dry signal, you can hear it gives it like a low-key kind of smooth sound. And again, there's a whole range of in-betweens. My favorite thing here is making it a stereo delay. And there are two ways to do it. First is by pressing the skew button. And this will skew the delay effect between the left and right channels. And you can adjust how much it's skewed between left and right by changing this rate knob. Another thing I can do, so now it's back to center. If I hold down the skew button for a second or so, now it turns it into a ping pong delay effect, and it's bouncing back and forth between left and right. We can still adjust the rate, but it just kind of behaves differently than the normal skew function. This button right here says flip on it, and it does what you probably think it does. It makes those repeating effects play backwards. And then there's a hold button here, which means that even if I stop my sequence, it's going to keep playing what it's repeating. So even if I change the key of what my sequence is playing, the delay effect is still playing what it is repeating from before. All right, let's turn that off. That would be useful for like drone music or something. What I haven't gotten into yet is the zone knob. Now we can tell what zone we're in by the color flashing here. Each zone has its own color, so you can quickly identify where you're at. And the zone is sort of like a macro multiplier of the rate. So if I turn the zone all the way to the left, it's a very fast repeat. So fast that you can't even really hear it until you turn the repeats up pretty high. You can see it's starting to feed back. You can almost make like a room reverb effect by turning the zone all the way to the left, and then increasing the halo effect. Maybe room isn't the right word for it. It sounds more like a chamber reverb, but you get the idea. There we go. So it's still in the fastest zone, but I can tweak the rate still with the rate knob. So all the way to the right slows it down a bit to where it's got that oil tanker delay kind of effect. But let's go to the next zone here. Next zone. By the time we get all the way to the right, the zones get very large, very slow. And so if you have a sequence that evolves over a long period of time, it could still be repeating something that played, I think, like minutes earlier. Actually, let's try that. Let me stop this sequence. We'll see how long this repeats. And I'm just going to play random things, and we'll see how it affects it. So oh, there we go. It takes a long time for it to cycle back around and start playing what I was playing earlier. You could almost use that like a looper. There are some CV inputs here, control voltage inputs, that we haven't touched yet. And those enable you to automate some of these features, some of these controls here. My favorite one to use is this one, which is a micro rate CV. So I'm just going to plug an LFO into here. And this affects the delay by very subtly modulating the rate and thus the pitch of the echoes. Which just makes the overall sound of it a bit more complex. So, can you hear the modulation in the echoes now? Like the pitch is kind of changing in them? Here's without. I'll plug it back in. I bet if we sped up the repeating, it could almost turn into like a chorus effect. There we go. I'm adjusting the speed of my LFO now to see how it's affecting it. So that's a very fast LFO. Oh, that's cool. Could live without that feedback sound, but I turned the color down a little bit. We're at maybe like 1 o'clock now, and that seems to have mitigated that feedback sound. If I went full high pass filter, we could like amplify the feedback. I don't know why I would ever want that. Sounds pretty terrible, actually. That sounds cool, though. And of course, you know, there are CV inputs for the flip, so you could have some sort of a gate going in there to periodically reverse the echoes. Similarly, you could put a CV into the hold button to, you know, switch that on and off with a gate signal. I actually forget what this thing is. So I'm just going to plug something in there and see what happens. see what this does. No noticeable difference. What if I plug that into an audio signal? Nothing. I don't know. I don't know what that's for. But we can plug a CV into the color. So if I turn the color all the way down, and now I've got an LFO going into there. It'll kind of turn up and down that color knob without me having to touch it. Same thing with the halo. Let's automate everything. Why not? Normally I wouldn't do something quite this chaotic with it, but it's cool to see that just the range of possibilities with this thing. You know, it's better to have it and not need it than to need it and not have it. You know what I mean? But as far as delay effects go, that is probably the most satisfying one I've ever used. It's really cool. Lots of different sounds you can get out of it. Well, I could do this all day. Anyway, come back next time and I will dive into another one of these modules in my eurorack and see what kind of weirdness and chaos we can come up with. Peace out.